Here we are going live. And a very, very warm welcome to Jennifer Conrad.
Thank
Hi,
you.
Jennifer.
Hello.
Welcome to the New Books Network. I will introduce myself because I always forget. I'm Mel Rosenberg. I am the host of the Children's Literature Network Children's Literature Channel of the New Books Network. I always get it wrong. And I'm here with the wonderful Jennifer Conrad. And Jennifer, you're a first. You are a high school teacher and you teach high school kids picture books. And I've never heard of anyone like you. I was introduced to you via Carol Duringer. Thank you, Carol. And Jennifer, what do you do? It's incredible.
Well, I have a class that's called, excuse me, Early Literacy and Picture Books. And so what we do is we spend the first part of our trimester kind of exploring some reading memoirs that authors have written about reading when they were kids. And we talk about what early literacy is and why it's so important. We watch a documentary about Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, which is a huge program over here. And then we start working on picture books. So we study the art. We kind of look at the American Caldecott Awards books, and they have to learn how to do a read aloud. So they have to pick a picture book and they have to do voices, because we talk about engaging kids and how important it is to help kids love reading. That's part of early literacy. So they learn how to do a read aloud, and they have to do a read aloud in front of the whole class, which scares them to death. And then we go to the elementary schools, to the kindergartens and first grades, sometimes to the preschool if there's time. And the kids they get in little groups and they get to read their books with the kids, and it hits home for them how important it is to read to kids. So we spend most of our trimester just kind of looking at picture books and talking about why it's so important to read to kids.
And these are regular high school students in your town, Allegan, in Michigan, right?
Yep, they're seniors, so they're in their last
Mhm.
year. For many of them, this
And,
counts as their English requirement.
and these are like regular high school students.
Mhm.
And rather than study Shakespeare, which is what I did in my senior year, they are studying picture books. Did you invent this? I've never ever heard of anything like it. How, how
Yeah.
did this how did this happen?
Well, when I was in college, I originally wanted to go into children's literature. I was thinking I might want to become a professor. And in the 90s, there weren't a ton of colleges that offered children's lit. And after I graduated, I enrolled in the Master's in Children's Lit program at Eastern Michigan University. And during that time, I did some work with a colleague's child, and kind of caught the bug for teaching. So I started the Children's Lit program, but then left it to do the teaching certification program. But the Children's Lit stuff was always kind of in the back of my head. And I had this wonderful principal, Bill Hammer, who just encouraged us to do anything. So I said, hey, what if I did a children's lit class? And originally it was the picture books, but also Harry Potter. And I taught The Watsons Go to Birmingham, 1963, by Christopher Paul Curtis, who's a Michigan author. And sometimes I taught The Wizard of Oz. So there were a whole bunch of books. It was a year-long course called Children's Lit. And back then we actually wrote picture books. My mom was a fourth grade teacher, and I used to coach tennis, and my co-tennis coach was the first grade teacher. And so we would work with the first graders to make books, or sometimes the fourth graders to make books. And then we would kind of do this big performance where we would enact a couple of them. But then eventually the classes became, the time we had became shorter. And so what I did, gosh, trying to think, maybe 2 or 3 years ago, is I broke the children's lit class up into two. So they're each a trimester long. And one of them is the Harry Potter course, and it just focuses on Harry Potter. And then the other one is the early literacy and picture book. So I've been teaching this. I was figuring this out before we were talking. I think I've been teaching this for 25 years, which is crazy to me.
Unbelievable. Do you know anybody else that teaches this at high school level?
I know one other person, and that's she had talked to me. She's another local area teacher, and she had talked to me about we're going to offer some more electives. I remember you saying you taught children's lit. Can you send me your stuff? So that's the only other person I know of that's teaching it. I'm sure there are other teachers who might be, but that's all I know.
It's incredible. And I guess kids hear from their siblings, and it's an elective. They don't have to study this. They can study Shakespeare, I suppose.
Mhm.
So they choose to be in your class, which I think is good for you because you only get kids that want to be with you.
Well, I have some kids, so it can count for your senior requirements. So there are some kids who are like, I don't want to take an English class, and they take my class because they think
Ah,
reading picture books will be easy,
ah.
but they
Okay.
catch the bug later on.
And for those of us who thought it was going to be easy, um, uh, for me, for example, I mean, like everything that they say that authors shouldn't do, I've done. I mean, for half a century, I started writing in my early 20s, and I got everything wrong until about 10 years ago. So you have a chance to set it right. What do you teach the kids about picture books? I mean, I think picture books are wonderful. They can be taught and read and enjoyed at every single level, academic, personal, and what have you. But how do you do it?
Well, we talk a little bit about the age groups for
What's
picture
it,
books.
Jennifer? What's it? It's the first class, but you bring a picture book to class. You drag an author to class, a teddy bear. What do you do?
Well, the let's see, it's a few weeks into the class before we start actually looking at picture books because we focus on the hard part first with the early literacy. But I think the first book I usually read is called Petite Rouge, A Cajun Red Riding Hood. It's by Mike Artell and it's illustrated by Jim Harris. And it's got a Cajun dialect and it's just fun to read. And so I bring it in and I'm like, well, okay, so what do you like about this book? And we talk about it a little bit and who do you think this is meant for? And so we just I start off by trying to read some fun books just to get them used to what it's like to listen to picture books again. And sometimes we'll talk about that too. Like, okay, so now this is what it's like for little kids. Because they have to, I call it kindergarten style. They sit on the floor around me. I sit in a chair. It's just like when they were in kindergarten where
And,
they
the,
got
and these are 17-year-old kids.
Yes, 17 and 18-year-old kids sitting on the floor around the teacher while I read a book and share it with them. And then a few books in, then I will do a bad reading of Don't Let the Pigeon Stay Up Late by Mo Willems. So
Well,
I'll
well,
like,
hold on. First of all, you sent me about 100 of your favorite books. Um, I mean, I haven't had homework in years. This is going to take me a while to read all of them. I did start. So it's interesting. I'm a huge Mo Willems fan and I actually met him last year,
oh,
which was a big thing for me. And he really is tall. Um, and so I'm interested because most people would teach "Don't let the pigeon drive the bus," which I've also taught.
uh-huh.
And you chose another one of the similar stories. Is there a reason for that, or just?
It was one of my son's favorite books when he was little. And the Don't Let the Pigeon Ride the Bus is a Caldecott book. So I try to save Caldecott books until the latter part of the trimester. So this one
Okay.
is I just picked this one because he used to love it and I read it all the time to him. So
Well,
it's good memories
what?
for me every time I read it.
Okay. What's not to love? And we'll get back to the memories.
Yeah.
Um, so what do you do? I mean, I can ask you a million questions, but um, you read the books to the kids, and then you ask them what's good about it and what's not good about it. You have I have a checklist,
Mhm.
of Mel's favorite things that make a children's book, a picture book. Do you have a list like that that you share? If not, I'm going to ask you about it. Like,
No,
you just open it up to the kids and say, "What do you like about this?"
Yeah, we just usually open it up because it's a short conversation. A lot of times they aren't always quick to share, so we just kind of warm up with a few books. And what they really get into is when I do that, Don't Let the Pigeons Stay Up Late. And the first time I read it, it's just monotone and I read too fast and I don't show them half of the pictures and I have attitude about reading it. And they just love to like tell me everything I did wrong in my read aloud. And I'll be like, hey, you're hurting my feelings. Give me something nice for a minute. And so then we talk about what should you do when you're reading to a kid. And then I reread it and I make them interact with it. Like, my son used to always, no, Pigeon, every time Pigeon would say something. So I make them do it. And then we talk about, hey, look, you were engaged. This is how you kind of get younger kids to get more involved in the book versus just sitting and absorbing. And then they have fun telling me what I did right and then trying to figure out what I didn't do as well. And then what we do from there is we talk about the voices a little bit, but then I have them read Little Red Running Shorts, which is out of the Stinky Cheese Man and Other Fairly Stupid Tales by John Seska and Lane Smith. And so they just take that story and they have to figure out in groups, they're in groups of three, what should Jack, the narrator's voice sound like? What should Red Running Shorts voice sound like? What should the wolf's voice sound like? And we talk about, look at the picture. Like you've got to first pay attention to what they say, but then look at the pictures and how do you figure out what kind of voices you do for those characters based on what they look like. And Little Red Running Short, she's basically got like a big frown here and or frown up here, frown here. She's got all the sass. So it's kind of fun. And some of them try to do like British accents and stuff for the wolf. It's really funny because they're really bad accents. But then they start thinking about, okay, what we start looking at the picture books and pick a book that you like. What should you do? What should this character sound like? What should this character sound like? So we do a lot of kind of voice prepping for when they get to their read aloud through that.
They get to choose the picture books that they want to work on.
They usually, my goal for them is I want them to read 25 picture books over the course of the trimester.
Mhm.
And we have times like in my regular English classes, like the regular lit based classes, I do this. The students have to do what's called choice reading. So they pick books that they like and they have to read so many pages. So at the beginning of a trimester, I'll do what I call book tasting, which I stole from some other teacher, where we just put books in piles and they kind of jump from table to table and, okay, pick one that you think the cover looks interesting. Open it up to wherever you want to and read for however many minutes. So I do the same thing with picture books where we'll do picture book tasting and they get to jump around and try different books and see which ones they like. And we've also at that point done when I first introduced picture books, I'll give them in groups a pile of picture books and say, okay, how would you define a picture book? And I make sure that there's like books that don't have color and books that don't have words. And so they come up with these definitions. And then I throw the book with no pictures by BJ Novak at them and say, okay, how does this fit in? So that's always fun to kind of make those definitions. So they've at that point read a whole bunch of different books and they get to pick what book they'd like to read to the kindergartners. With a little, sometimes I'll be like, someone else has done that book and it didn't go over real well because it's kind of sad, or you might want to pick something that's shorter because they don't have the attention span for this really long book. So usually they get to pick their own.
Wonderful. And how do you grade them at the end of the trimester?
Well, there are a couple different ways. They actually get a score for their read aloud, where I grade them. I'm trying to think what the categories are. Did they do voices and were they consistent about doing those voices? Their volume and pace. Did they show the pictures so that everybody could see them? Because sometimes they'll want to they want to read the book like this, but then everybody back here can't see the pictures. What else do I grade? Oh, do they use punctuation in their speech? So there are a number of things there. That's like a 60-point assignment. When we're doing Caldecots, that one I change up a lot. So sometimes I have them do a speech where they have to explain why they think their Caldecott is the best Caldecott winner. Sometimes we've done like a March Madness bracket where we have books competing against each other. That always depends on time, where they would argue why their book is better than others. So sometimes they do an art analysis. In the beginning of the trimester, they write a memoir about their own reading. So something that they remember as a child, or some of them have written about high school. So I had one student that I had last year as a junior who wrote his reading memoir about how he hated to read. And then I handed him this one book and said, you should try this book. And then he was like, I loved that book. All of a sudden I wanted to read more. So I was like, oh, yay, like they're getting it. So sometimes we'll write a book. It's been a while since we've written a book just because of time. And then they have like little assignments along the way, like, did you read your 25 books? Or sometimes they'll just do a quick, what age do you think this is for? Or what do you think is the best part of this book? Or they get participation points for trying their voices in class. They get participation points for going to the elementary schools and reading. That one is kind of, I don't like to attach a big grade to that one because it's just fun and I want them to enjoy it. So it's just like, did you do it? Cool. Here's 10 points.
One of the criticisms of American education is that it's confined to the United States very often. Caldecots are exclusively or usually American
Yep.
books. Do you expose them to Canada, Britain,
Right.
Australia?
I I don't know that I don't intentionally. There are a number of books where I'm not sure where they come from. I'm looking
Good.
forward to
That's
sharing
good.
your book next year when I get it. So I don't intentionally, and I've done the Caldecott because in Allegan we had a former teacher who was on the Caldecott committee. His name's Ed Spicer. And so he would talk to my students about it and would share picture books with me. So that's kind of why I focused on the Caldecott, is
No,
because he would talk about it.
I think it's a great idea.
Yeah, but
Um,
I don't have many, I don't think I have many international books. I'm not, like I said, I'm not entirely sure. There's some where they could be, but I'm not sure where the authors and illustrators
you
are
and I
from.
can talk about a few authors who are not from the States someday.
Yeah.
Um, Robert Munch, for example, who's
Oh,
one of my
yes. I have some of
all-time
his books.
favorites. Yay. And the other thing that I love about what you're doing, and I just was speaking to Renee Latulippe about this, is that picture books are a unique kind of literature. They're shows,
Hmm.
and for you it's like water in your class. I mean, it's obvious that these are meant to be read, and I don't know, maybe the kids can wear mittens and hats to the read aloud. I don't know. And turn it into a play.
Hmm.
And what I was discussing with Renee, and I'd love to hear your thoughts, is that a good author makes it easy for the reader to be a really good actor.
Yes. I hadn't thought of it that way, but 100% yes. That's why I love that Petite Rouge book, because the author wrote it in the Cajun dialect and with the rhythm. So it's got a poetry rhythm to it. So even if can't channel your worst Cajun accent, um, he's got like, he'll say den instead of then, like, so he writes it so that you kind of you have to do it. um you're right, I hadn't thought of it that way, but 100% yes. Yeah.
What I want to ask you now, as somebody who's been in this arena for 25 years, I have lots of questions to ask you. I guess the first is, why aren't you writing your own books? You have so much expertise, and obviously you love it so much.
um Well, the reason why I'm not is because being an English teacher takes a ton of time. I spend way too much time grading. My son is a sophomore in high school, so I came to parenting late, and so I've been raising him. And I was tennis coach for 20 years, so that took up a bunch of time. My son plays football. He's a swimmer. Like there's a lot. Now he's in the marching band, so we've got a lot of family stuff going on. But I did take a course, an online course about children's literature just to kind of refresh myself. Like, I don't know, that was probably 15 years ago, but um, like one of them was what you write about. And one of the things, my son is Black, and so as he was growing up, there weren't a ton of books that featured little Black boys who lived in a rural area. Ton of them in inner city, or a ton of them about the Civil War in the United States, which I'm like, neither of those completely apply to him. So during that time, I was like, I really would like to write a book about just the pure joy my son had climbing the tree in the backyard. Like having just a regular book that wasn't, focused on inner city life, or wasn't focused on slavery, that featured a Black boy in a rural area. So like that's still in the back of my mind, but I'm a few years away from retirement, but that's like on my when I retire, I might actually get to write this story. But right now
And
there's like no time.
and I hope you do.
I hope so.
I hope you don't wait as long as I did. So now here's the $64 million question. Jennifer, what makes a really good picture book? And I'm going to ask you now to focus on the author side,
Right.
because we both know that fantastic illustrations make or break a story. But tell me about the story. What are the ingredients of the story that make or break it, in your opinion, with all your expertise?
Oh my gosh, I like so many different types of stories. This is a hard question.
Okay, but what does the story have to have?
Well, obviously it has to have some kind of conflict. You have to have a character that you can relate to on some level. Even if it's somebody that you're not sharing the same experience, but it's similar to something, or that's an emotion that you felt before. Um, hmm. Sometimes I really like when there's beautiful language. I don't know if little kids appreciate that as much. And my favorite books as an adult are ones where they're geared towards kids, but there are like adult jokes in them, where you just things that will make you laugh as an adult. Um, I'm just thinking about um,
Well, I mean, Mo Willems always does that.
yeah, yeah. Like the Knuffle Bunny, where you're just like, oh my gosh, I've 100% been there. Not going to the laundromat and losing, but losing something, right? Where the kid is losing their nuggets about not having it. I love John Seska books because like the Stinky Cheese Man, I just think that is the one of the most hilarious books out there, because I know all the stories, and I know how the story should end, and then they're just ridiculous. And so that's fun. I'm trying to think. I really like some of the serious books too that I don't know that kids necessarily like. So The Undefeated, oh, that book. I love that book by Kwame Alexander and Kadir Nelson. And gosh, and for me, I know this isn't the author, but I really love it when those pictures give you more than what's going on in the story. Like when the author doesn't give you every single detail, and some of those details are saved for the artwork. Like that seamless mix. Those are my favorite books. Those are truly
Well,
my
that took me so many years to master. Just
It's not
to leave
easy.
It's not easy at all because in previous books that were hybrid that I published, the editor would say, there's too much text on this page.
Hmm.
And I would say, yeah, I know, but we're paying for half of it. So, um, so these are lessons that are so hard to learn from the author. The less you write, the more the book is going to be yours in the end.
Right.
Um, and what else? Keep going. This is good. So a serious picture book. Um, I'm going to argue that it still should have some humorous element. Am I right or wrong?
Um,
Something to smile at. You don't have to
for
agree with me.
for kids for sure. For little kids for sure. Although, yeah. Because I'm just thinking the undefeated, it's not like a big haha smile. It's more like, yes, those people have survived, people have continued to move on. There's the book We Are the Water Protectors that I also love. I love the artwork in that. Again, it's not so much like a oh my gosh smile. It's
Okay, so let's compromise on endearing. There has to be something endearing.
yeah, yeah,
Um,
then
that
definitely.
okay, what about irony? For me, that's really important when I'm looking at the picture book.
I think for some little kids, not so much. For adults, yes. Teenagers enjoy it. I don't think it's required, but
Okay, no,
it's
this is
one
what
element.
I don't want you to agree with me. The whole beauty of these interviews is that people
Right.
have different appreciations for
No,
picture
I
books,
think
and,
for
and they
older
should.
audiences, yes. For younger audiences, no. I think that's a
How
little
im-
too
how
complicated.
im- okay, how important is it for you for the book to wrap around for the like I didn't the famous book If You Give a Mouse a Cookie.
Hmm.
I didn't see that on the list you sent me.
No,
And it's one of my favorites.
yeah.
How important is this wrapping around that the story ends up at the beginning or near the beginning
I don't know that wrapping up and being back at the beginning is
or near the beginning?
I just like I like books to have like a clear resolution for picture books. I mean, I don't really know any that have cliffhangers, but some kind of some kind of resolution, but I don't know that I always need it to be back at the beginning. I'm trying to think. I just want it to reveal something unexpected, maybe. Or if
Okay, all right. That's super important for me.
yeah. Like have you read One Cool Friend?
No, I promise you I will.
Okay. Well, I actually have it here. So this book right here.
Okay.
And what I love about this book, The Unexpected, so there's this little kid, I can't remember his name, Elliot, who goes to the aquarium and he goes to the aquarium and he likes the penguins. Well, he ends up stealing a penguin. Um, his dad thinks he bought it, or at least you're led to think his dad thinks he bought it, and he's hiding it. And you keep seeing, trying to find this picture, you keep seeing like here's his dad, and he's got green on, and he's got all this turtle stuff. And then like the unexpected is at the end when Elliot's left the penguin in the tub, and dad goes in to take a bath. He's like, Elliot, what's this? And then he's like, it's he said, it's where did this penguin come from? And Elliot says the southern tip of Argentina. And he's like, yes, that's right. As for Captain Cook, and you find out he also has a pet. And when you look earlier, you can see, all of the turtle stuff that he had, but also like there were hints. Where did it go? Like you can see his footrest there is the top of the turtle. So like the unexpected is you weren't expecting. I mean, I expect it now because I've read it enough times, but you weren't expecting the dad to also have an animal that he really shouldn't have
Th-
in the house.
This is often the I wouldn't say the role, but the creative addition of the artist and or art
Mm,
director
yeah,
to find these jewels in the to create these jewels in the artwork.
right.
Um,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
beautiful. What else? Like I'm also interested in your take on reader response. How important is it not to have an ambiguous ending, perhaps, but to have the reader be able to reach different conclusions, to make the book his or her or their own, um, so the book is not, too fixed. It can be
Right.
interpreted in several ways.
I'm trying to think of which books I've read that are like that. Um, the ones that I can think of off the top of my head that do that are all wordless picture books. So, um, hmm,
And those are fine. I mean, they put up all
yeah,
the work sometimes, but
yeah, but I mean, I like it because it makes you think at the end, and you can ask the child questions or the teenager questions. And I'm trying to think if I've read one of those in class where we've talked about it. I can't think of one other than like Tuesdays that we've talked about. Um, but I think that that's maybe Grandpa Green. I think that that's an interesting element to add. I don't know that I would say it's a requirement, but it definitely gives an extra layer where you can talk about it and have the child process the concepts a little bit more. That's a great thing to do for helping them become better readers, just in general.
one of the picture books you sent me was particularly verbose. It's a great story. It's the one about
Mhm.
the squirrels that replace the birds. Uh,
Those darn squirrels. Actually, in my
yeah,
house, it's those darn squirrels.
but there's a lot of text in that book. To what extent do you adhere to this 500 word limit?
Oh, I don't. I don't. There are some books that have less and again, age group, because I don't know that I would read a particularly long book to young kids, but oh my gosh, my son loved those darn squirrels when he was a kid. And there was enough repetition.
You didn't tire of reading him the because parents when they get the books with lots of words,
Mhm.
sometimes they try and skip the pages,
Nope.
and the kids always catch them.
True. I don't think I ever really skipped words. I don't think I skipped words when I read because I was just so excited to be reading that I was just
Okay.
like, come on. I mean, I'd be like, come back, come back, let's finish this book. Um, but yeah, I don't agree with that word limit. I mean, maybe for like the ones that are meant for 1 to 3 year olds, but we were reading those books when he was 3, 4, and he loved them. But because the illustrations were hilarious too.
Yeah, for sure. But Jennifer, isn't it possible that times have changed?
True.
And parents have, I'm not talking about kids right now, but parents
Right.
have less patience for books
Yes.
with too many words.
Yeah.
They're
That's
going to buy the book,
unfortunate.
70 words.
Yeah.
Okay, that's for
Yeah.
me.
That makes me sad because then that's less time you spend reading to your kids. And that time is so important, not just for getting them to love reading, but just like parent-child bonding time. Like that's something you should be looking forward to doing instead of, oh, this is a chore that I have to take care of.
Absolutely. I mean, like the wonderful memories of my childhood, or with my parents reading me Madeline. I didn't find
Mhm.
Madeline in your list.
No,
Uh,
but I do have those books in my room.
okay. Um, that's my all-time favorite.
Yeah.
And so I'm wondering now, when you must go to the library and check out new books all the time, and perhaps publishers send you books.
No.
They don't. Well, I will send you mine when it comes out in February.
Yay.
So, but they should send you books. I mean, you are one of a
They
kind.
don't
I
know
mean,
I exist.
they they will now. Hey, publishers, send Jennifer your books. Maybe they're afraid that they'll end up in your slush pile. But I mean, you go to the library and read picture books and
Mhm,
remain current and so on. Um, so I'm assuming that there's books that you love and books that you love less.
mhm,
What is your advice for authors like myself, who are watching and listening to this show, from someone like you who is so 24/7 into picture books at so many different levels, as a mom, as a teacher, as a kid
mhm.
at heart? What are we doing wrong? What should we be doing more
Um, hmm, I that's a really good question. Um,
You don't have to answer me now. We can do
no,
this
I'm
again in
thinking.
five.
I
We can do it again in
I
5 years.
I really want to see more variety in um what kids are doing and more diversity in characters. Um, a couple of books that I've gotten recently, I think my friend Carol gave me one too. Books about like kids using cardboard boxes to build things. And that just, I was like, this is something my kid did all the time. Why have I not seen these books before? Um, I like the stories to be upbeat, but I also have really appreciated books that help you deal with, like my son, he struggled. He used to get angry really fast when he was a kid, and so we found these books. I think the author's name is Julia Cook. One was called Soda Pop Head, and it was about a kid who would just like explode, and talked about how to regulate yourself. um and she had another book about that too. Just like I like the books that also help kids deal with the everyday things that they're dealing with, like dysregulation, like learning to share with friends, um, that kind of stuff. I like adventure books too. Jeez. I want it to be upbeat in some way, or positive. Maybe I should say positive. Something that has some kind of positive result to it, whether it's, like figuring out how to handle grief or figuring out how to regulate
Some
yourself.
some some positive outcome.
Yeah, or
And
like,
Jennifer, we could go on, and I'm thinking that a year from now we should do this again. But we're gonna end it this positive note,
okay.
and I'm gonna thank you so much. This was splendid, and you are splendid. And so I'm Mel Rosenberg, the host of the Children's Literature channel of the New Books Network, and I've been here with this incredible, unique lady who loves picture books so much that she teaches them to high school seniors, Jennifer Conrad. I can't wait for your kids to take a look at my book that debuts in
I
February,
can't wait.
for better or for worse. Thanks so much for being on the show, and take
Thank you
care.
so much for having me.
Take care, everybody.
Thank you.